Hello students, म मिलन तामाङ पोलिटिकल साइन्स टिचर्स। आज म क्लास 12 को एउटा इम्पोर्टेन्ट टपिक लिएर आएको छु अनि त्यो टपिक हो एक्जिक्युटिभ्स इन इन्डिया। र सबभन्दा पहिला एक्जिक्युटिभ्स इन इन्डियामा म सानो इन्ट्रोडक्सन दिन चाहन्छु। त्यो इन्ट्रोडक्सनमा हामी देख्छौँ वी हेभ बोरोड in our constitution largely the British parliamentary constitutions. We have prime minister here, but at the same time the president is also here giving the theoretical or formal executive powers to the president of India, right? So the executives in India, especially the union executives in India covers the President of India and Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. So, what we have seen is that in the introduction, I told you that we largely borrowed the British model of the parliamentary government, and we have the Prime Minister is the real head or the real executive with all the powers, but at the same time, we have the President whom we considered as a constitutional or titular head. Now, what we have seen is that in the union executives, we have divided two types or the two kinds of executive in India, that is permanent or non-political and temporary or political, right? So, the permanent or non-politicals are whom we consider executives are the bureaucrats. They have been chosen from the competitive examinations and they hold office till their retirement. And the temporary or the political means they comes through election, though directly or indirectly, or whom we also considered as a political executives. Now our main topics to be focused or to be discussed is the political executives, whom we also consider the temporary executives, that is called the President in India, right? Or the President of India. Now, Article 52 of the Constitution provides that there shall be a President, and Article 53 provides all the executive powers of the Union in the hands of the President. So it is clear that the post of the President is the creation, is the outcome of the Constitution, right? So we have seen that Article 52 given the birth or it makes the provisions for the post of the President of India, and at the same time it has given Article 53 with the executive powers of the Union, right? Now, we come to the President and we'll see what are the qualifications to be a President, right? Now, we have pointed out certain qualifications, and the first qualifications is must be the citizen of India. Citizen of India, we have mentioned that. And the another is must have completed the age of 35 years, 35 plus. And third is be qualified for election as a member of the House of the People, and number D is not hold any office of profit, and number E is not be the member of Parliament or state legislature. So to be the President of India, these 5 important qualifications are there. So must be the citizen, must complete the age of 35 years, be a qualified for election as a member of the House of the People, and not hold office of any profit, or not be the member of Parliament or state legislature. Now these are the qualifications, and we'll see the term of office and removal of the President. Now we come to the third point is term of office and removal of the President. Once the President is elected, he holds the office for a term of 5 years, right? 5 years from the date of which he enters upon his office and eligible for re-election. That means he is re-eligible for another 5 years, means total 10 years terms. And once hold the office for 5 years and also eligible for second term, another 5 years, 10 years. But remember that he may be removed from the office on 2 reasons. One is either he or she resign by himself due to ill health or whatever else, or he or she may be removed through the process of impeachment. Here come the word impeachment. Impeachment. What this means? Impeachment means if the allegations of inefficiency, corruption, or any other reasons was put against the president to be placed in either house, and if it is passed by 2/3 majority in the floor of the parliament, then the president has to resign, and this process is known as impeachment. So we have seen that, be it clear that the president holds office for a term of 5 years and he is eligible for another next 5 years, maximum 10 years term, and he may be removed on 2 grounds, either resign personally on grounds of health or whatever else, or he may be removed from the process of through the process of impeachment. And what impeachment means, I just explained to you. So this is the third points that we have seen. Then we'll go to the number 4th point, that is very interesting and very unique, is the method of election. Method of election. The President of India is indirectly elected by the people, right? All the elections, right from the office of the Prime Minister down to the Panchayat level, all these elections are conducted by the Election Commission of India. But the election of the President and the Vice Presidents are not under the purview of these Election Commission of India. For the purpose of the election of the President and Vice President, an electoral college is composed of with the elected members of the parliament and the elected members of the state legislatives, and it is a temporary body, not like election commission, but it is a temporary, and it has been formed only to conduct the election of the president and the vice president, and as soon as this is over, then the electoral college will cease to function. Right. Now, methods of election by the electoral college, it has been provided under Article 54 and 55. As you have seen that electoral college consists of the elected members of the parliament and elected, remember this important point, elected members of state legislative assembly by means of single transferable vote and secret ballot, that has been mentioned under Article 54. And Article 55 deals with the procedure of election. Procedure of election, we have seen that is number 1 point is in this is uniformity in the scale of representation of different states, uniformity. Then to determine this, the following formula is followed. We have seen this: total population of the state upon total number of the elected MLAs of the state legislative assembly multiplied by 1 upon 1000. Then the next step is, say, uniformity in the values of votes of all MPs and MLAs. Mind these things, these are all elected MPs and MLAs. This can be derived like this: total value of all elected MLAs of all state legislative assemblies upon total number of elected MPs. Here what we find is that total value of all elected MLAs of the state legislative assemblies upon total number of the elected MLAs. Then these are the formula, the methods. Then we go to the number D point is single vote system. Means the value of the vote of an MLA differs from the state to state. Mind one thing, I am giving you one example is that, take one example, our neighboring state is Sikkim. Sikkim have a 32 MLAs, right? And take the examples of West Bengal here also, we have a 294 MLAs. But while casting the vote in the presidential elections, the value of vote differs from MLA to MLA depending upon the size or the population or the numbers of the elected members, right? Naturally, the West Bengal's MLAs are larger in numbers in comparison to the Sikkim's 32. Then quota. So far we have seen that these are the methods, these are the procedures, but remember, in the simple election what we have seen is that after the election is over, whoever got the highest number, they are declared as an elected. But in the matter of the presidential election, it is not so. The electoral college fixed a quota, a certain numbers, calculating the numbers of the MLAs and the MPs. Certain number of votes are kept as a quota. Now, here the important point is how to obtain quota. This is very important. Quota. Quota means total. We followed this in a group method. Quota means total number of valid votes pooled. Valid votes upon total number of seats to be filled, that is 1 plus 1 and upon plus 1. So, total number of valid votes pooled upon total number of seats to be filled plus 1, and there is a plus 1. Calculating this comes a certain numbers, and that is known as quotas. Sorry. So, remember, to be elected as a president, no matter whatever be the numbers in the election, a candidate must reach the quota. Until and unless quota is not reached, a candidate cannot be declared as an elected. Now, counting and provisions for transfer of votes. That's what I am explaining you is that, supposing there are 3 candidates for the presidential elections. Number 1 is seat is only 1, and there are 3 candidates, right? Mr. A, Mr. B, and Mr. C. Now, during the first counting, obtaining quota, total number of valid votes pooled upon total number of seats to be filled plus 1. If the one candidate securing highest numbers but failed to reach the quota, then what happened? Second round of counting takes place, and in that case, the candidate which got the least numbers, supposing Mr. B got the least numbers, will be eliminated from the contest, and his vote again will be divided into A and C. This process continues till the reach the quota, and this is known as a single transferable vote, and this goes in counting till a candidate reaches the quota. Supposing B is eliminated and his vote, number of votes polled, that has been divided amongst A and C, and if the A highest number and reaches the quota, then Mr. A is declared as to be elected. So how we can obtain the quota, and these are the process of methods in electing the president, and this is very unique. I told you that this is not under the Election Commission of India. For that purpose, we have to make an electoral college, temporary body, to conduct only the election purpose, and as long as it is completed, this will cease to function. I told you that President of India is indirectly elected by the people. He is not directly elected by the people. He is indirectly elected through the electoral college. Now we have to see why indirect election is needed to elect the president. The very foremost reason is that we have the parliamentary democracy, we have the parliamentary system of government, and the real power or the authority is vested in the hands of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. For these reasons also, President is not to be elected directly by the people, because it leads a power tussle. In a democracy, the powers derive from the people. If the President is also directly elected by the people and the Prime Minister also, there would definitely leads to misunderstandings or the deadlocks. So one reason is that, and another reason is that of course it's a wastage of time, money, management. So keeping in view all these and making the president as the ceremonial head, as the tutorial head, the provisions is made for indirect election. And the next point is oath, salary and allowances, etc. You know, once the President of India is elected through the electoral college, reaching the quota, he has to take the oath of office of the President, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India gives the oath to the President of India, and once he took the oath, then he is entitled to get the salaries, and these salaries, allowances and other privileges are decided by the laws passed in the Parliament. And these salaries, allowances and the other privileges are passed by the Consolidated Fund of India, which the Parliament sanction is not required. Now this next important part of the President is the powers of the President, and we'll discuss the powers of the President. First power of the President is the executive power. Executive power. Right? Article 53 of the Constitution provides that the executive power of the Union shall be vested with the President of India. Being the head of the executive, the President has to appoint the Prime Minister also. After the election, general election, those party comes to the majority, whose leaders are invited by the President of India to be the Prime Minister, to form the government. And on the recommendation of the Prime Minister, President also appoints the other Council of Ministers. This is the executive powers. Not only that, the President of India appoints the governors, ambassadors, diplomats, high-ranking officials like the members of the Union Public Service Commissions, Child Commissions, Women Commissions, right? So these are all comes in the executive power of the President. And the president has the power to ask or to prove the majority of the floor or of the parliament. If he is satisfied that the parliament is not in accordance with the satisfactions of the peoples, then he may ask to prove the floor test and even can dissolve the house. Apart from that, the President of India appoints the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, other judges of the Supreme Courts and the High Courts, and he is the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. He can declare war or conclude treaties in the capacity of this power. Second important power of the president is the legislative power. Remember one thing, President of India is not a member of either house. He is not the member of the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, but the Indian legislature or the parliament is composed of the president, Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. He is an integral part of the Indian legislature. In the capacity of these, of the legislative power of the president, he can summons, prorogue the sessions of the parliament. He can address the joint sessions or separately to the house of the parliament. Another important functions of the legislative functions of the president is that he can appoint certain numbers of the members to the Rajya Sabha if he thinks these community or the sections of the peoples are not adequately represented. Right? And another important is that no bill can become an act if it is either a money bill or it is a private bill. No money bill can become an act until and unless it has to be signed or the president put his assent that won't be came into force. This is a very important power, legislative power, right? Then the next is very important is that normally the parliament or the legislature is to make the laws, but sometimes it makes ordinances, means it's a law-like effect. The laws are made by the parliament, but the problem is that it can be made only when it is in session. Sometimes the situation demands that it needs immediate tackle or intervention. Then that time the President of India can issue ordinances. I told you that it's a law-like effects. It has to be rectified later on, but it has even the law-making power in the name of the ordinances. Then another is that a bill passed by the states, but if it is resolved and sent it by the governor to the president, then the president can even have a upper say in these matters. I mean that the President of India can even have a hands on the state legislature if it is recommended by the governor of the concerned state. So these are some of the important legislative powers. So far we have seen that the executive powers, legislative powers. Third important power of the president is the financial power. Right? The president causes the annual budget of the union government and causes the annual budget of the union parliament, right? And no proposal for any spending money or raising the revenues can be placed without the prior approval of the president. So the president of India, having this financial power, he has the control over these financial matters. The fourth important power of the president is the judicial power. As we knew that the president of India appoints the judges of the Supreme Court, high courts, and definitely he has got this judicial power. And apart from that, the president of India has the power to pardon, reprieve, or reduce the sentences of a culprit. Once any victim, any culprit is sentenced by the court, by the highest court, then the last option that he or she can make a petition or a prayer to the President of India, and being these judicial powers of the President, he or she has got the power to pardon, remit, or any other means to give this power into effect. Apart from these powers of the President, we have seen that the executive powers, legislative powers, judicial powers, financial powers, the very important powers the Constitution have vested to the President of India is the emergency powers of the President. Basically, there are three important emergency powers that has been given or assigned to the President of India. And the first is national emergency. It provides under Article 352 of the Constitution that whenever a nation is threatened by any external aggression or chaos or disorder, then the President of India can proclaim national emergency under Article 352. Now we have to see what happened. If the national emergency is imposed or in operation, first thing is that we have normally the federal system of governments, right? But during these national emergency or in its operation, the whole administration turns into unitary. It comes, the total administration, in the central government's hand. And another important is that during this period or in the operation of the national emergency, our fundamental rights, especially Article 19 and the constitutional remedies, are asking to seek justice for freedom, will be suspended till its operation. So this is very important, national emergency. And the next is state emergency under Article 356. When a state is not running according to the provisions of the Constitution, administrative machinery is breakdown. On the recommendation of the governor of the concerned states, the President can impose state emergency under Article 356. Right? Then the effect. What would be the effect? When the state emergency is in operation, the effect is that the government of the states that totally comes under the hands of the union government or the President through the governor of the states concerned. The administration or the financial matters, whatever that comes in the hands of the union government, and the medium through which the central government operates is the governor. And the effect is the same. I told you that operation comes in the hands of the central government, and similarly the fundamental rights, especially the Article 19, right to freedom, and the constitutional remedies will be suspended in a particular state where the state emergency is imposed upon. Then the next and the last is a financial emergency. Right? Financial emergency is provided under Article 360. When the financial crisis or the breakdowns, or what we say is the inflation that occurs, when the too many money purchases few goods, then the financial emergency can be declared under Article 360. The effect same, all the budgetary, all the financial matters comes in the hands of the central government, union government, and it turns into a unitary government. And mind one thing is that it's a good that we have experienced the national emergency during the war or during even these periods. Some kind of national emergency is there during these corona periods. All the administration is in the hands of the central government. State governments have a less participation or less responsibilities here, all these with the national government. We have experienced this. We have experienced the state emergency similarly. We have seen in Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab and anywhere. But till date, we have not implemented or not experienced financial emergency till now. The students, we have seen that going through the criteria or the qualifications and the powers of the President of India and discussing the emergency power of India, let us see the exact position of the President of India. We have seen that theoretically, or rather formally, the Constitution has given enormous powers to the President of India. Mind one thing, Article 52 provides the creation of the post of the President of India. Article 53 gives the executive power of the union government. And 54, 55, the methods of the elections or the other powers. And even we have seen that Article 75 Clause 1 clearly states that the Prime Minister holds the office during the pleasure of the President. It means that the President is all in all in matters of the administration. But practically, the scene is different. India is a parliamentary form of government. Giving the real power or the authority is with the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. There is one article which turns the whole picture in a different way. No matter the Constitution has given a lot of powers, functions, or the role of the President being the head of the executives in India, but Article 75, this is very important. Article 75 says that there shall be a Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister to aid and advise the President. Mind one thing, this Article 75 creates the post of the Prime Minister, and as well as it becomes binding to the President to take the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. So in a real sense or practically, the Prime Minister have given the real power. He is the real executive, and the President, being the head of the nation, is made the constitutional head, is head of the nation, but not of the government. President of India is a titular head, ceremonial head, who operates, who functions on behalf of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. President simply acts as the microphone, as what? the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers says, he has to louden the voice, or he has no other alternative rather than to accept the aid and advice. Let us see. We have seen that the President appoints the governors, the chairman of the different commissions, judges of the Supreme Court, High Court, including the Chief Justice. But remember, President cannot appoint anyone whom he likes. Rather, he is bound to take the advice to do so by the Prime Minister. So in a real sense, India, being a parliamentary democracy, being a parliamentary form of government, President is made the ceremonial head of the nation, but not of the government. Right? So, we have seen today is the President of India. The introductions, what we have seen is that we borrowed the ideas of parliamentary democracy from the British model. We implemented here in India. We made parliamentary government, though like in England, they have a parliamentary democracy, but they have the Queen there as the head of the nations, ceremonial head. Similarly, in India, we have a parliamentary system of government, Prime Minister there, but at the same time, we have a President, and giving constitutionally these powers, these positions we have seen, and the actual positions we have discussed in this chapter. Thank you very much, and we will meet in the next class. Keep watching different channels, log on to Facebooks, and during these Corona periods, lockdown periods, Corona made us to keep social distancing, but we are trying to reach you maximum emotional attachment. And thank you very much, and again we will meet you soon.